Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Dr. Ihsan Bagby. I'm your brother in Islam. One focus of the new revitalized manna is community service. Community service to the African American community, to the poor and minority communities, to the inner city community, to the Black and brown communities. And why community service? Why does manna want to make this a priority, a focus? And it goes back to the very beginning of manna, why manna was created in the first place. And it goes back to what Imam Siraj Wahhaj, who was the longtime leader of manna, who in the first manna conference made very clear that one of the key motivations for the creation of manna is that African American Muslim communities who used to be active in their community, used to be contributors and an influencer, a force in the African American community, by the 1980s were no longer that force in the Black community. And he said that we need to get back to that. We need to be back in our African American communities, poor minority communities, involved, contributing, active, influencing. And community service is one of the ways that we do that. So actually, from the very beginning, the idea that manna embraces community service is part and parcel of the identity of manna. And so for the new revitalized manna, community service again is going to play a major role. But the other reason is simply that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala demands it. This is our deen, to be involved, to be there to help the needy and the weak. One of my favorite Surah Al-Balad, early Meccan revelation. So just as we from the very beginning of manna want to focus on community service, the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instructs Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and the companions to focus also on community service. So part of Surah Al-Balad, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْعَقَبَةُ فَكُّ رَقَبَةٍ أَوْ إِطْعَامٌ فِي يَوْمٍ ذِي مَسْغَبَةٍ يَتِيمًا ذَا مَقْرَبَةٍ ثُمَّ كَانَ مِنَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْمَرْحَمَةِ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and what we'll tell you is the high road, not the low road, but the high road of righteousness, the high road of justice. What is this high road? It is freeing the bondsman, the slave, the shackled one. It is giving food in a day of hunger to the orphan who is related, and to the person down in the poor person down in the dust. This is our deen. And so manna embraces that as an obligation, as a responsibility. Let me give you a quick example of what is meant by community service. One example, we should all know that the vast majority of poor African American communities, poor minority communities are in food deserts, which means that they do not have access to affordable, healthy foods. And the result is clear. I mean, it is disturbingly clear that African Americans in general score at the bottom of almost every health indicator, in part due to the fact that they do not have in their diet healthy foods. So obesity, African Americans at the bottom. Diabetes, African Americans at the bottom. Hypertension, cardiovascular diseases, all attributable to diet and lifestyle. Can we be involved? Should we be involved to try to remedy, to try to help the Black community rise to the challenge of changing the way they eat and the way they consume foods? Yes, we can. We should. And it's quite simple, in fact, for us to decide. It's will that we decide, yes, we're going to get involved. Now, many communities are involved. And you should understand that this priority of community service was something that MANA embraced early, and they established what we call share centers. Share centers are the vehicle for local communities to become involved in community service. And we have existing 3 share centers already. And I invite you to learn more about the share centers that exist. And you can find that information on the MANA website. But let me share with you at the end of this presentation my vision, our vision of what we want to do. For one, we only have 3 share centers. We want to establish many, many more. I mean, where are Muslims located? Almost every city, small to large, we should have some type of share center or some type of organization that focuses on community service. We want to facilitate the establishment of these community service centers throughout America. And then finally, we want to network with all of them. Our vision is to create a network of community service centers, which we call the Share Network. But we want to bring to the table everybody who's involved in this so that we might learn from one another. We might benefit from the experience of one another. We might learn best practices from one another, and we can share resources from one another. There are many benefits of coming together. We don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. So the focus of MANA, the new and revitalized MANA, will be community service. And as we work to revitalize MANA, please support us and join us in this great historic effort. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.